In the latest edition of the Ryder report, I set out to tell you, the reader, what's really going on in property markets across Australia. And I do emphasise the word really. What's actually happening in the major and some of the less major markets across Australia in comparison to the daily diet being fed to us by mainstream media, which is telling us that, amongst other things, that prices are falling everywhere. We know that's not true. So many of the features and small articles in this month's edition of the Ryder report are devoted to trying to give clarity and accuracy and balance to market situations in the major cities and some of the regional areas across Australia. The editorial, for example, is devoted to the so-called debate in media and amongst politicians and members of the property industry about negative gearing policy. What the consequences really are, what are the real facts behind this policy and the real motivations behind it. In the editorial section and in the feature section, we discuss the signs that are out there that maybe, and I don't say definitively, but maybe the worst is over for the markets in Sydney and Melbourne in terms of the downturn after the recent booms in those markets. There's mounting evidence seen in price data, vacancy figures, rental trends, and some of the price trends that perhaps the bottom is near for Sydney and Melbourne. We're not making a definitive statement about that, but certainly putting out there the gathering evidence that maybe that's the case. In the prices rent section, we compare price data from 4 different sources for the major cities of Australia, point out where there's common ground and where there are discrepancies, and generally comment on the way that media reports price data and how generally unhelpful and inaccurate it is in trying to give clarity to people about what's really going on in markets across Australia. And also in the state-by-state section, we point out information resulting from our recent suburb-by-suburb analysis across Australia. What's happening in Perth, for example, definitely recovery is underway, and our analysis shows that 40% of the suburbs of Perth now have prices higher than 12 months ago. 60% is still down, but the 40% up is another piece of evidence taken together with other data like rents, vacancies, and sales activity, that recovery is underway in that market. In Brisbane, even though the generalised data shows no growth happening in Brisbane, our suburb-by-suburb analysis shows that about 8 out of 10 suburbs do actually have prices rising in the Brisbane market. There's also growth happening in outer Melbourne, contrary to the general media rhetoric of prices falling everywhere across Melbourne. We comment again on the underlying strength in the economy and the property market in the city of Adelaide. That and a whole lot more in the current new edition of the Ryder report, out every month to subscribers to premium membership and also specific subscribers to the Ryder report. So get your copy and please take time to read it, because it's one of the few places in this country you can actually find out what's really going on in property markets across Australia. Talk to you again soon.